You are listening to Parenting Our Future with certified parent coach Robin McMahon, author of The Yelling Cure and founder of Parenting for Connection. My podcast is all about providing you with the tools and solutions you need in your parenting so you can create the family you always wanted. For more information on my book and other resources, check out yellingcurebook.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Parenting Our Future. I am parent coach Robin McMahon, and I am here with one of my favorite guests. This is the second time she's been on my show. It is Dr. Vanessa LaPointe. Dr. Vanessa LaPointe is all kinds of magic. If you don't know her, you need to know her. She is not only a psychologist, she is an author of two go-to books for me. One is Discipline Without Damage, and the other one is Parenting Right from the Start. And I've got to talk about Parenting Right from the Start, and I will in a minute. But first, I just want to say thank you for coming, Dr. Vanessa. You have not only helped me with what I do in my coaching, with the material that you put out, but you helped me in my parenting a long time ago when I was really struggling. So I first just want to say thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. I love being here with you.
Yay! So you and I know each other personally because you were there when I was in crisis. You were there when I came in and looked like my world was falling apart. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget the one time that we came in to talk about my son and you said, okay, forget about him for a minute. What is going on with you? Why do you look like this? And I just completely lost it.
I remember that day too.
Yes, I bawled my eyes out. And that was the day where you're like, okay, okay. If you could do anything, because I was not happy in my work, what would you do? And I said, I want to be a parent coach. And then I buried my head in my hands. And you said, yes, that's perfect. And I thought in all my brokenness that I couldn't do that. But you saw what I couldn't see at that time.
Only the wounded healer heals, my dear.
Oh my gosh. And I can't even tell you how happy I am that I am doing this work. And it's just so cool that
all over your face. It's so beautiful.
Oh my gosh. And the reason that you're here today is because you taught me such an important lesson that I use still with my kids and I teach my clients. And that is that essentially our kids need a scaffolding of support around them within which they can explore the world and what it is like to be in a relationship with other people safely and with boundaries. Right? Yep. This is not a free-for-all. We are not here to permissively parent our kids in any way, shape, or form. And so what I want to ask you about is really this concept of being this large and in charge parent where you are, you are the strong one that your kids look up to, because if you're not, then that has adverse effects. So I want to sort of give it over to you. And if you can tell me what it means to be large and in charge, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so being large and in charge and having swagger as a big person really is about honoring the hierarchical nature of the parent-child relationship, the teacher-child relationship, the caregiver-child relationship. Children know that the big people in their lives, their special grown-ups, the ones that are charged most importantly with their care, are their best bet. And so they're looking around constantly for what I call micro cues from their big people to make sure that all is in order and that they can rest into the safe embrace of that nurturing care. Now, problematically, and it's a really interesting time to be a parent because we're really overwhelmed by our lives. We parent in relative isolation compared to generations gone by. And we also have had, and it's funny for you and I especially to talk about this, the sort of development of the parenting industry over the last kind of 20, 25, 30 years. And the seedy underbelly of all of those things coming together is that parents are really overwhelmed with life and with parenting, and the parenting industry has kind of jumped in to be the answer, but the fallout from that is that parents now think they actually don't know what they're doing. And what their children need from them more than anything is that they show up and they drop it like it's hot and they walk around with their shoulders back and their chins held high and their eyes sort of collecting the eyes of their children all the day long, and even while their children are sleeping. So their kids, every time their eyes land on their big people, they're like, okay, cool. My mom's got it. My dad's got it. Right? And if we're, like wide-eyed and overwhelmed and I don't know, sweetie, are you going to be okay? And I don't know, sweetie, let me call your psychologist to ask her. The kids are like, holy, who's in charge here? Because if you're not in charge, then I'm going to have to put myself in charge in order to make sure that my ship does not sink. And I'll tell you what. You think parenting's hard anyways? You try being in the lead of a child who's in the lead of you. And then I'll tell you what's hard.
Been there.
Yeah, me too, sister friends. And let me tell you, it's a hard road to travel.
Holy crap, is it ever? Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. I want to talk about the parent side, and then I want to talk about what this means for our kids. So you're right. This is a really hard time. We are doing all the things. And it feels like we're doing so many things, and none of them we're doing really, really great. We're just doing them all, sometimes going through the motions, and we are overwhelmed. Absolutely. And we not only that, add to that the fact that we are pioneers in this whole digital age too, which we don't even know what the heck we're doing half the time, right? We don't really even know. So then you add that. And so you're saying, okay, let's be the swagger. Let's drop it like it's hot, like you said. Let's do this. I got you. But what if I don't feel that way? What if I really don't know? How then do I embody that if I just don't know?
Mm-hmm. And one of the greatest gifts of parenting and being a parent is that it is going to rip you open and tear you to shreds and drop you to your knees. There is no mercy in this role of parent. You will be forced to stare your own wounds right in the face, and you then have a choice. You can carry on with the status quo, stay asleep, kind of push through, continue to bang your head against the brick wall. Or you can take it on and you can look it all right in the eye and you can decide, and it's not for the faint of heart. I'm going to warn you about that right now. You can decide that you're going to grow the parts of you that are as yet ungrown. Because what happens in the parent-child relationship is this is not a new dynamic to you. You've been in a parent-child relationship once before in your life when you were the child in the parent-child relationship. And I'm telling you this as a child psychologist, so hang with me. Our children will suffer their greatest wounds at our hands, just as we suffered our greatest wounds at our parents' hands. And it's not because we had bad parents. It's the nature of the parent-child relationship. It's the intensity of that relationship. And it's the profound potency of that relationship in terms of the impact that it has on the developing mind. And so when you were a child, you suffered your greatest wounds at the hands of your parents. And that environment shaped your mind. It shaped the very essence of who you are. And now you grow up, become an adult, and then become a parent. And in the act of becoming a parent, you are triggered back into an awareness of the parent-child dance that you experienced when you were a child. And so now all of a sudden you got this 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kid in your face about something, and you feel like you want to burst into tears. You feel overwhelmed. You feel helpless. You feel guilty. You might think that you have a list of evidence a mile long to convince me that this is because of your kid that you're feeling this way. But what I'm going to share with you is this has got nothing to do with your child. Those feelings come from you. They are part of your history. They have been brought forth from your childhood into your present day moment, and your child's only job is not to make you happy, but rather to stir this mess up so that you get another chance. So every time you go to feeling triggered, overwhelmed, guilty, angry, sad, mad, full of rage, full of defeat, whatever it is, know that it's not your kid. It's you. And the wonderful thing about that is then it's within you to get it turned around.
Yep. Oh my gosh, there's so much that you just said there. Holy cow. And I think, the way I look at it too is that happened when we were powerless to do anything about it in our childhood.
Of course, you feel overwhelmed, right?
Right. And now we have the power. That's why we yell and scream, right? Or we withdraw, like what you said, and we cry and we don't know why we feel the way we feel. Or like you said, we have a list of infractions that our child has done against us, to us. Yeah. And we want to get back at them, but you're yelling at the wrong person. You're upset at the wrong person. These are wounds, and triggers happen from a place where we were hurt the most, which is in our childhood, right?
Right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
We grow up and walk around in the adult form, but many of us are children walking around in adult bodies. And so I often refer to it as my second adulthood, like the adulthood where I actually grew up. And my children have been my biggest teachers. Yeah. I have a child with developmental exceptionalities. And so, I would go to work every day and fix everybody else's problems with their kids. And then I'd go home and my own life was blowing up. And I had to figure it all out for myself. And so one of the little gems that I've taken from all of that, and I constantly remind myself of it, is this is not happening to me. This is happening for me. What is the lesson? What is the gift? What is the teaching? What gold can I mine from the chaos of this circumstance so that I get to grow, and in the act of growing myself, I'm better able to show up with presence in the growing up of my children.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so often people come to me, and I'm sure they come to you and say, fix my kid. And it's like, no, it's not so much about your kids. Your kids are just being kids, right? Yeah. It's you and your interpretation of it and how we take things personally, right? Oh, yeah. And the other thing
about that.
Yeah, right? Me neither. But the thing is too, is that like, I love what you just said, I say to my clients, and to say to anybody who will listen, is that your anger is such a gift, and not to use every situation. Don't feel bad that you had a rough time and a bad moment. It's your opportunity to say, okay, why did I act this way? Why did I react? Why did I say that? Why am I feeling this way? So that you can go within and say, okay, this is because of this. And this is also the thing. We need help because we all have blind spots that we can't see, right? Absolutely. I have them, right? And so that's why it is great to have a child psychologist like you, or or somebody helping you, a parent coach. I mean, that is what I do. I help you see things in a way that you didn't know were going on. And that is really, really where the change happens.
And when you're in it, because I can tell you all of the things. I've studied all of this material for years and years and years, yet when I'm in my own wounds, I can't see it. Yeah. I can't see it in the way that I can see it from the outside for somebody else who is in their wound. And so it really is a beautiful thing to find a guide of some kind, and to use sort of all of your intuitive wisdom in ensuring that you are well matched to that guide, that that what they have to offer you really resonates with the truth of who you are, so that you can feel really supported in that journey. It's what a gift to yourself and what a gift to your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when we show up in a different way, our kids show up in a different way for us. It's magic.
Word to your mother.
It's just so true. And I love it when I talk, when I'm with my clients and they're like, things are really good this week. I'm like, I know. It's because you're doing this stuff. You're doing it, right? It's so cool. You are currently listening to the Parenting Our Future podcast. I'm parent coach Robin McMahon. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with someone who you think might also need to hear this. please don't forget to subscribe, and I would be grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating on iTunes. If you're a parent who's struggling and you feel like you might need some support to be the confident leader of your family, where you can calmly respond to any kind of behavior, disrespect, or your kids not listening to you, well, I have a membership group that you might be interested in. All you have to do is go to kamomsclub.com for more information. That's kamomsclub.com for more information. Now, back to the show. So if we don't know what to do, we need to look at ourselves. We need to look within. We kind of need to do the work. Yeah. And like you said, you can either go into defeat and wither away and say, I don't know, baby, are you okay? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, oh, okay, I'll do this for you. Or you can say, okay, hang on. I am going to give you the structure that you need, the support you need. And that is where I'm going to bring the swagger. And I'm going to show you in my actions, in my words, in my energy that I've got this.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
And you do that because if you don't, your children look at you and they're looking, like you said, for those micro cues that they are in control, that you are in control as the parent.
Right.
Because if they don't feel it, essentially kids are just trying to get their needs met, right? That's- and if you are a figure of instability for them and you are sometimes with it, sometimes not, they're not going to fully trust you, right? Mm-hmm. And that means that they're going to then show you behavior that is them trying to hustle for control, right? Yeah. So can you tell a little bit about how that shows up in our kids?
Yeah. And so just very quickly for your listeners to know, you don't have to be perfect at it. It's when we have like a pattern of this and we get stuck in this that our kids really struggle. And so what it would look like in your child is that they are unable to take your lead. And so they become sort of bossy, they become domineering, they become prescriptive. Sometimes if you're looking for myself, when I'm meeting with families and I'm looking from the outside in, my initial read on the child is they're quite precocious. And then over time I see, what we call precocious actually is a child who's large and in charge. And we're reading it as sort of just like socially kind of dominant, but what it is that they're unable to find a space of emotional rest because they've lost trust in their big person to be their north. And if your listeners could see me right now, the natural stance of the parent-child relationship is that the parent is this very sort of strong backbone that provides sort of this wonderfully safe but enriched container for growth. And the child leans in on the strength of the backbone. And because the child can lean in to the parent, and the parent is kind of shoring them up and creating this beautiful environment for growth, then the child knows that they'll be well taken care of. They know that they don't need to rise to the occasion to meet their own needs and demand of you to step in and take care of them. And so they get to sort of all of the energy that they would have poured into that demandingness. I think I just made that word up. Now get to redirect to their growth. Right? And so there's no rest for the child who's in the lead. It is not the natural state of affairs. The child must be in the leaning in position in order to have emotional rest, and they have to have the emotional rest in place in order to actually have the capacity for true growth and development to occur. And so we just really, really want to invite that. And more than that, believe it. Like, really, really get down to the core of our being, down to like the microcells of the microcells in our body, to really manifest the belief that we are our kids' best bet.
Yeah.
Watch me. You watch me be your best bet.
Yeah, exactly. Bring it.
Bring it.
So I love all of that. And what you're saying is we just need our kids to just relax and trust us so that their behavior isn't showing up as them being demanding and reminding and worried and anxious because they don't know we aren't their best bet. They don't know for sure that we've got this, right? And maybe they're one of 4 kids and they are the one that has, higher needs, right?
They're
And
hypersensitive. They got other things going on. School's really hard, whatever it is.
yeah, I call them need getting badasses. They know how to get their needs met and they will not back down no matter what you say. And they are running their parents ragged. So in fact, it perpetuates the problem.
It really does. And so it's contrary to what we might think is the so-called solution, right? So if you have a yelly, shouty, demandy, greedy, gimme kind of kid, our sort of parenting pop culture would have you believe like your job is to shut that down, right? Which is actually the opposite of what the child is looking for. The child is putting up like in big neon lights, this billboard like, yo, I am not okay over here. You don't feel like you know what you're doing. My needs are not being met. You are not picking up what I am putting down. I do not feel heard, seen, and understood. Right? And so what we need to do is rather than shutting them down, we just get even bigger.
Yes.
So there's no room for questioning it. And being big has 2 sides to it.
Okay.
You have to be really kind, full of compassion, full of empathy, full of wisdom and insight and intuition. And the other side is you have to be really firm.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so let's talk about what that even sounds like. Because, like I told you, I use what you've taught me with my clients. And I say, this is not about being all of a sudden being a dominant parent. You are still lovingly, peacefully parenting your child through this, but you're holding firm on your boundaries, right?
That's right.
And it's really important. So you described it to me when we first were working together about this as anticipating my son's needs before he even knew he had them. Right? So really it is a bit of effort on our, for us on the front end of things, right?
Oh yeah.
When you're dealing with a situation versus dealing with the fallout on the back end, which can be way harder, last longer, and is probably the pattern you're stuck in. So the words that I would use, because I know people like to just know the words to use because sometimes they're just not sure. Yeah. And it was like, I knew you were going to say that. Mm-hmm. Like, so my son comes up to me and says, why won't you let me watch TV right now? And I would say, well, I knew you were going to say that. So that's why that's why I've got a book here for you that you and I are going to read together, for example. Right?
That's right.
Even if I didn't know. And my husband and I would be like, yep, I knew you were going to be uncomfortable with that. And that's okay. You can feel upset. I don't mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you create all of this space and invitation around it. And of course, the challenge is a lot of parents of large and in charge kids will be like, but I am so exhausted. I give and I give and I give and I try and I try and I try and it's never enough. I don't have it in me to do this. I don't have it in me to be this. And I remember being at my chiropractor's office once and there was a sign on the wall that said, Doctor, I don't have time to exercise an hour a day. And the doctor said back to the patient, oh really? Do you have time to be dead 24 hours a day? So really, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You just got to get a bit of momentum going around this. And it's a challenging dynamic to get turned around, but you will find very quickly that your child's going to be like, oh, snap, something in the dance has changed.
Yeah. Right? And you're already uncomfortable. So let's do something that's uncomfortable anyway, but will get you out of the mess you're in.
Right. And because you have this large and in charge kid, what it also means is that they are by design and nature going to be 2 steps ahead of you at all times. That's basically the definition of having a large and in charge kid. And so your task at all times is to be able to step into that gap, the 2 steps that they're ahead of you, and step over them. And so when, they're having the classic after school meltdown and you're driving in your car and they're like, I want an ice cream. And you say, I cannot even believe that you just asked for that because guess where I am driving right now? Do you know it's international? Take your kid for ice cream after school day today? And of course, You're not going to be able to do that for every single demand that falls out of their mouth. You might have, like a diversion plan in place. I knew you were going to ask for that. And that's why I already have blah, blah, blah planned. So that they have this sense like, how did you know? Right? And even that they experience you as being sort of really generous. That they come home and they've had this terrible, no good, very bad, awful day. And maybe your routine is that you read them a chapter every night before bed. And they start, demanding, I want 3 chapters. And you say to them, oh, sweetheart, today is not a 3-chapter day. You've had a terrible, no good, very bad, awful day. We're going to have to read 5 chapters. And they'll be like, what? And eventually the demandiness starts to dissipate as the child realizes that you are sniffing them and that you have, as a result of really sort of knowing the air around them, that you have recalibrated everything about life for them. And then what you'll see is their limbic systems and their emotional cells get to take a big old deep breath and lean in and come to rest. And then magic happens. Growth happens like you've never seen before. Life begins to feel sort of lighter and easier and different. And it's a wonderful, wonderful gift to give your children. It means that they get the chance to grow up fully and completely into all that it was they were destined to be.
Wow. You are a magical human being. Everything you've just said, I felt every word of it. You almost made me cry a little bit. That was really beautiful. Wow. I mean, what a gift to give your kids. And I love all of that. And I want to include these kind of words of how to have your swagger, right? One of the things that I've done before is just, when your child is being unkind to you and says, I don't want to talk to you right now. And then you say, it is not the time to talk, or get away from me. I'm going to leave right now because this is not working for me. Right? Like you make it your idea.
To check on you. Don't come back in 5 minutes. I'll see you when it's time to see you. Or the child says, I'm really, or you say to your child, you're really frustrated. And the child says, I'm not frustrated, I'm angry. That's right, you're really angry.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, I know you. I know you inside and out, backwards and frontwards. I am your big person. You can count on me. I'm not going to school today. Yeah, it really feels like a not going to school day. I get that. I could tell already from the moment you opened your eyes this morning that this was a not going to school day for you. And then you decide as a parent whether they have to go to school or not. But you are constantly picking up their cues and reflecting back to them. I see you, I hear you, I get you. I see you, I hear you, I get you. I see you, I hear you, I get you.
Yeah, because what you're doing too is you're repeating back to them what you've heard them say, right? Which is huge, really important. Yeah. And two, I like that you said you're being really generous with them too. And look, this is not permissive parenting, but this is a means to an end, because you need to get your child to relax into you, to trust you. And so if we have been doing this in an opposite way, we need to put the work in to do this. And I say that because I'm thinking there may be some people listening who are thinking, well, I don't want to give my kid ice cream every time she screams and says, I want ice cream. I don't want to do 5 chapters just because she screams and says, I want, 3 chapters instead of 2, right?
Right. Absolutely. And one of the challenges is, and I think that this has become a real problem, as we've talked more and more about, attachment parenting and connection is everything, and relationship is the foundation of healthy child development, and you really need your kids to be leaning on you, that people, especially if we have wounds around this from our own childhood, we misinterpret that as believing that we need to make it all warm and squishy and comfy and cozy for our children. And I call that the seedy underbelly of attachment or relationship focused parenting. gentle parenting, all of the sort of things out there now. The seedy underbelly is we do become permissive. We've misinterpreted the information and we've co-opted it to sort of become part of our woundedness and the patterning that we were already bringing to the parent-child relationship. And so attachment parenting is not permissive parenting. It's not just, big group hug, warm, fuzzy feelies kind of parenting. It's about stepping in and providing very clear boundaries, about being really consistent, about really having your child understand beyond the shadow of a doubt that you are it for them, and doing all of that with heart. So there's no space for shame. There's no space for punishment. There's no space for making the child wrong for being the very one who they are. And you step up and you get it done because that's your job as a big person.
Yeah. And you really advocate for meeting kids where they are, not where you think they should be. That's right. You give a really great example about, the mom who is taking their 5-year-old to kindergarten, right? And how you think, okay, you are 5 now. You need to get to learn how to tie your shoes. So then now you're bringing home those little things that help practice tying shoes. She's watching YouTube videos on how to tie shoes. And then you've got to zip up your jacket and you've got to know how to do that. And you've got to be able to take the outside shoes and the inside shoes and change them and know how to, and so you've put all this pressure on your child and also yourself. And then what happens as a result of that?
Right. And your child goes to pieces and you go to pieces. And the problem is, if that child was overwhelmed by the concept of going to school, if that child is an orchid child and happens to be highly sensitive and thus very reactive to the expectations and demands of their world, if all of these other things are playing out and we've put all of this pressure on the child, what we've done is we've put the bar too high. And so now every time the child goes to jump, they smash into the bar and fall on their face and they feel terrible about themselves. And then it becomes iterative. Then we feel terrible about ourselves. We're doing obviously a terrible job as parents and we're failing at this thing called parenting. And now our kid is failing at this thing called life. Like we all just, go to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to read our children for who they are. I have 2 boys cut from the same cloth. They could not be more different from one another. And my second son was just he is this highly sensitive, incredibly brilliant, magnificent human with gifts and skill and passion and zest for life like nobody else on the planet. And oh my God, did I have to rework how I understood kids when he came along. And so in knowing, sniffing the air around him, I had to move the bar. The bar had to be quite a bit lower than where it was for his, quote, dandelion brother who kind of rolls with the punches in life and everything's always just fine, right? Yeah. He made me look like a good mom. It was good he was first. I wouldn't have had a second if if it had been the other way around. So you have to calibrate to that child and put the bar where that child can jump. Part of being a firm and kind parent is to read your kids and put the bar where they can jump. And I'll tell you what, that bar probably needs to move on Monday morning compared to Tuesday morning. It probably needs to move from 8 a.m. compared to 6 p.m. You're constantly reassessing and reevaluating and sniffing the air and figuring it all out as you walk through life with your child.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think the idea of the bar moving day to day, hour to hour is a really important point. Holy cow. Yeah. Yes. Because your kids are not the same every day and neither are we. So, right. So, and with that mom who is with their 5-year-old, instead of freaking out about all that stuff, you say, I've got your backpack. I'm going to carry it. I'm going to tie your shoes for you. I'm going to make sure your jacket is all zipped up and ready to go. And then when your child says, no, I want to do my shoes, you say, yes.
That's right.
You do your shoes.
Out of the gift of deep dependence comes true independence. And then our job is when our kids sort of give us those first glimmers of, me do self, the first glimmers of independence, that we honor it. We said,
yes.
And yes, you will. Look at you. Wow, wow, wow.
Exactly. Yes. This has been one of the most wonderful conversations. Oh, you are just like my person. I hope that everybody listening feels the energy coming from you and your wisdom. You have just been a gift in my life, and you've helped me see the gift that is the gifts that are my kids too. And I want to say again, like, for anybody who's struggling, you have two incredible books that I just want everyone to know about. And all of your details will be in the show notes. People need to know you. They need to follow you on Instagram. They need to join your Facebook page. They need to do all the things Dr. Vanessa has to offer, because you are wise and you care about children, you care about parents, you care about it all, and it shows in absolutely everything you do. And I will continue to quote you and talk about what you've taught me, and I am so grateful for it. So, Discipline Without Damage and Parenting Right from the Start. That is the book you give every mom that you know that just had a baby. I have a friend that is who's just about to have her second child, and she is getting that book from me because that is what she needs to parent right from the start. So thank you for all that you are, all that you do. I just love you so much.
I shine it all right back at you.
Thank you for listening to this edition of my podcast, Parenting Our Future. I'm parent coach Robin McMahon, and if you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with someone who you think might also need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe, and if you like my work, I'd be grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating. For those of you who like my content and want more, visit me at yellingcurebook.com to get your copy of my book and to find other resources to help you. Until next time, I am wishing you and your family peace and connection.